All right, so yeah, like, we're live. That's great. All right, because I've been having computer problems like crazy lately, so it's good to see that we're back up and running. So, okay, without further ado, heck, let's just jump right into it. Godzilla and Kong, that's great. They're coming back, but we kind of knew that for a while. Since I want to say, honestly, how long ago it was. I remember they did sort of tease the sequel for it, and there was like I think there was a hat that said Godzilla and Kong. So it's like, okay, it doesn't really sound much of a rematch, but just kind of sounds more like they're going to be good buddies now. But then again, they didn't really like, how do I say this? If you haven't seen the last film from the MonsterVerse, it's a little bit hard to kind of explain like what's the gist for this new movie because obviously this was meant to be a pretty huge rematch because the last time that they fought was literally in like 1962. It was 1962, right? It's been a long time. All right, I haven't watched any Godzilla movies since forever. I mean, honestly, things get kind of busy. Plus, I've been so mostly focused on like Ultraman and Marvel Legends content too. I mean, I haven't really posted any toy reviews in a while, but that's only because, well, I've been a little bit hesitant on the whole Marvel Legends deal because, long story short, they haven't really been doing so well lately. But I rather talk about that another time. I rather talk about the new teaser that was kind of released today. And that's the funny thing I wanted to mention real quick too is that I'm guessing they must have changed the name along the way because originally it was called Godzilla and Kong, but now I guess they changed it to Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire. And like I say, it's like a small, tiny little teaser. They barely really showed anything. They showed like I guess Kong, kind of sitting down on his throne, and it's like got some like the bones of like I guess like who knows that we know for sure that in the last movie it was pretty much teased that there was sort of this conflict that Kong and Godzilla must have had, like a rivalry, of course, seeing like who could be the true king of the monsters, I guess. Obviously we know it's Godzilla, but you get the idea. It's a rivalry for sure. They definitely did a lot of interesting things for sure, and it definitely looks like they're gonna have some sort of rematch. And the fact that they called it a new empire or so, I think that I'm pretty sure that's what they called it. I don't know, because the thing is, I saw it, and at first I was like, "Is this like some sort of promotion for a new game or something?" Because I know they've done that before. But I know, was it Fortnite or Call of Duty? I don't remember. They did had some sort of affiliation with some other sort of gaming thing where it's like, ooh, it's like you get this, and on top of that, I guess you got Godzilla and Kong causing mass destruction in the background. So, okay, that's pretty cool. It's nice to kind of see that too, considering that Godzilla isn't primarily a popular character here in America, but it's mostly popular in Japan. But we all kind of know that already. And the reason why I say that, it's because a couple years ago, back in 2019, there was the movie Godzilla King of the Monsters. And while it was massively popular in Japan, didn't really do so well here in the US, which I don't really know. I don't really understand why. It's not even a bad movie, but it's like if you look at all the MonsterVerse films, basically that one is considered the lowest out of the bunch, but I'm not sure why, because that's definitely the one that's batshit insane. Not to mention that it's included Mothra, Rodan, and then King Ghidorah, and a couple of others, that were sort of teased, like the Mito and the Giant Mammoth and all that. So it's like, okay, I don't know what's going on here. And then because Godzilla and Kong kind of takes place a little bit into the future, they kind of said that some time has passed. So it's like pretty much the only ones that are around is Godzilla and Kong. And yeah, and then you get Mechagodzilla and all that, but you get the gist of it. These are pretty batshit insane films. So it's pretty interesting that they've managed to like, kind of respect the whole idea behind both characters and kind of sort of improve upon it by making a sort of unique story. And they're really fun films for sure. So I can't wait to see what goes on with this. But like I mentioned, when I was looking into this, I honestly thought that this was like maybe like a fan made or a fake trailer. So that's what I thought it was at first. But then I saw more and I'm like, okay, no, literally, IGN, all these top companies, Dangerville, whatever you want to call those channels, I don't know. No, they showed off the Caesar, and it's definitely real for sure. I'm like, okay, that's cool. And one thing I want to talk about, really, what I found interesting is that I don't know if this is true. This is just rumors spreading around already. We only got one teaser, and there's already rumors spreading. Apparently, the Kong in question that's kind of sitting on the throne. Apparently, some people were saying that that's actually not Kong. That's actually just another giant monkey in the mix. So it's like, oh, I'm like, are you sure about that? I mean, I know towards the end of the last film, what happens is that there's like this other world called like Hollow Earth or so. I forgot what it was. And basically it's like the land of like where all the creatures live and all that, all like the weird prehistoric creatures and all that. And Kong, that's basically used to be not like his birth. I guess it's his birthplace. I have no idea. That's pretty much where his kind used to be, and that there was that whole war between them, and I guess all the Titans and the Godzillas and all that. And of course, there's the giant axe, which to this day, I don't think we really got a good clarification as to what that axe is, because a lot of people are saying that the axe was basically Godzilla's spines. Which I'm pretty sure that's probably what it is. So I'm assuming we would get some answers somewhere down the long run. I honestly can't really tell you. Like I say, this was a really, really quick teaser. It's only like 30 or like 40 seconds or so. We're pretty much not that long. And the only thing that we kind of got was you got the big monkey boy just kind of sitting down his throne. He's kind of looking around. And you see like all the dead corpses of like, I'm assuming enemies from the past. I have no idea. They're all random, and it's like if you want to like try and take like a nice deep little look, I guess you can try and see if maybe they look similar to like classic like kaijus and all that. I don't know. And then literally towards the end, they showed like a skull of like a Kong creature and then a Godzilla type creature. I can't help but calling them creatures because honestly, I mean, definitely one thing I want to mention for sure is one of the many misconceptions behind Godzilla as a whole is that it's like you watch the movies and it's like it's either like a different incarnation of the character or like the films just kind of get rebooted or that there are just that many Godzillas because as we all know, the first Godzilla from the very, very first film from 1954, we know that that was the first generation Godzilla. And then it wasn't until the second film, Godzilla Raids Again, is when we get the second generation of Godzilla. So that makes two. The only difference is that one was just pure bad. And then the other one was like, kind of hanging around for the last couple of sequels. I mean, he was around from the 50s to the 70s. Not to mention that Godzilla basically went from being a bad guy to a good guy because, as we all know, the Godzilla films in the 1970s was him just being a good guy, fighting against giant blob creatures, Hedorah, and then fighting a weird giant chicken dinosaur thing, which is Gigan, the kaiju with the giant buzzsaw on his chest, which honestly, that's one of my most favorite kaijus of all time. And I will be so happy if he does appear in the MonsterVerse. There's a lot of different opportunities going on here. I mean, I don't know if like they'll ever bring back like King Ghidorah or so. I'm not sure. I know that there has been at least some rumors and a little bit of some teasers that Mothra might come back, but then again, that's not a guarantee for sure. It doesn't really seem like that these films are really prone to like bringing back characters, except for the main ones like Godzilla and Kong. Basically, what I'm saying is I don't know if we'll ever get like another Mecha Godzilla or so, or like some sort of like more species of like Ghidorahs and all that. I don't know. Maybe they might want to bring back some classic characters because there has been some talk for a while that maybe, just maybe, they might bring back some classic kaijus. But then again, we really, really, really don't know. All that we can really just kind of go off of is what we see in this trailer. And one last thing I really do want to mention too is his eyes. Like his eyes are like just pure blue, but it's like, was that like the colors of his eyes? I highly doubt it. I thought it was like an orange at least, or like a kind of brownish. I'm not sure. I definitely don't remember them being blue. So to me, it definitely does kind of raise suspicion as to if there's going to be more than one Kong in this film. I mean, that'd be pretty great. I'd be open to that. But the thing is, they kind of alluded in the last film that he was the last of his kind and that his family's gone and all that. He's kind of like the last one. So it's like, I mean, like, you never know. They probably discover stuff along the way because, like I say, they discover like this other world or so. And honestly, it's a little bit up in the air to what happened with Godzilla 2 because apparently we were supposed to I know that there's supposed to be like a MonsterVerse TV series. I think it was going to be like on Apple TV or so. I'm not sure. Some streaming service, I don't know. Where the show would be it would be one of two things. It'll either be the continuation of Godzilla's adventures or it's going to be just like a show set in the MonsterVerse where you got like the people dealing with these other giant monsters. I don't know. That information still hasn't been out yet. So the fact that we got a new movie and a TV show coming out, that kind of says a lot. And now that I think about it, I just remembered something. And literally, I remembered this right when I'm going to end the video. I remember in the past, there has been talk if Kong should have a son or so. I remember that there was like talk about that where, maybe for the rest of the monsterverse, maybe it'll no longer be about Godzilla and it will actually be about Kong, which would be an interesting take for sure because, most of what we've seen of Godzilla, he's very, very he takes on his priorities for sure. This new version, the MonsterVerse Godzilla for sure, he always has a mission. He doesn't really do things because for the sake of mankind. He kind of does stuff just for him. Like with Godzilla King of the Monsters, he wanted to kill King Ghidorah because they had a rivalry a long time ago, and not to mention that King Ghidorah is not a kaiju per se. He's actually an alien from outer space. And then you have Godzilla vs. Kong, where they did have like a big, huge rivalry, but apparently this was like way bigger than King Ghidorah and all that. So you can only imagine if they're gonna come back with that, because a lot of people have debated over who was the winner in the last film. And if I'm being very honest, I'm very conflicted, only because technically Godzilla won. But then after he beats Kong's ass, he almost gets killed by Mechagodzilla. So then Kong had to come out of nowhere and save his ass. So it's like, you're not really much of a king if you can't even handle fighting a giant clone of yourself, which is technically a giant robot with the telekinetic powers of King Ghidorah, because yes, technically King Ghidorah is Mechagodzilla, but a lot of people don't really realize that because you have to really kind of pay attention to stuff like that in the films because they kind of alluded to it. They didn't really explain it too well in Godzilla vs. Kong, but it doesn't mean that it was bad or anything. I'm just saying, doesn't mean that it's a bad movie. It was definitely a very enjoyable film for sure, and I can only imagine that this one will be the same because these films are pretty top notch like that. So I can only imagine how crazy it's going to be, especially considering that it's called the New Empire, and it's like the New Empire. What is this? Avengers now? Or is Godzilla going to assemble his own team? Is that what we're getting at here? Is Mothra going to return for real? Because they were both buddies in King of the Monsters until she sacrificed herself, but she kind of needed to. And then Rodan, being such a little bitch, he just kind of like bowed down to Godzilla at the end. But then they kind of alluded that Godzilla kicked his ass, even though we didn't really see it in Godzilla vs. Kong. You kind of have to watch the intro to understand what I mean by that. If you watch the film, look, I'm just going to say it right now. Watch the MonsterVerse films first before you can kind of get an idea to what you need to get into when it comes to this new film, because it definitely looks like there's going to be a lot of big, heavy stuff in it. You could tell just by that teaser. I mean, Kong's just kind of sitting there, with the throne, and I'm like, the atmosphere, everything is like so dark. And I'm like, why? It wasn't like that before. Is this like a different throne room? Is this a different setting? Is this the same one? I mean, to be fair, this is technically kind of set in the future a little bit, because I remember technically with Godzilla vs. Kong, it was like the technology was like all high up and all that, it was like super advanced, which kind of makes sense because the original films were kind of like that to an extent, where you got like rocket ships, they're able to go to the moon and all that, they're able to go to like a different planet and all that already. Who could remember Invasion of Astro Monster? That's a pretty bizarre one. That's the very first Godzilla film where not only did he fought in space, but like that's where they had aliens for the first time. So I can only imagine that it's going to be about time that we've kind of run into that. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen, even though they've already hinted the whole extraterrestrial aspect of it, because King Ghidorah is an alien. He's not really a creature per se. It's not really described what kind of alien he is, because King Ghidorah is not an alien, but he's definitely an alien of something. He's something about his origin doesn't seem right. So it's like, it's always been like that since his first appearance. But I'm just saying, I wouldn't be surprised if they did went into that aspect because the technology is so advanced and all that. I mean, you got the weird giant heave vehicles. They're called heave, like the ones that can like fly through gravity and all that. I don't know, some weird shit. You gotta watch the film, because for me explaining, it's so bizarre. I mean, honestly, I would be so happy the day I do movie reviews so that I could talk about this shit. But I'm just saying. And it sounds like I'm gonna have to end the video early. I don't know. Usually when I get phone calls like that, I gotta answer it. So let me see. Yeah, okay, it's probably important. So that was about it anyway. I pretty much said everything that I want. So my dog's going crazy. Oh, yep. Okay, yep. That's for me. I can hear it. So I hope you guys stay safe as always. Well, we're back up and running, so expect more videos hopefully soon. So until then, I'll see you guys next time. All right, peace.